Hi, my name is Aurelio Torres. I live in East Hampton, New York for the last 20 odd something years. I've been painting and sculpting out here ever since. I'm originally from Uruguay, Montevideo. It's a seaside city on the Rio de la Plata, across from the capital of Buenos Aires. I came here to the United States as a young boy with my family to seek asylum from the military coups occurring throughout the South America, Chile, Uruguay, Argentina. We settled in New York City with my brothers and sisters and with the family, and started a new life here. My father was a painter. He was represented by various galleries in New York City, and we grew up in a life of art in an art studio where my father worked mostly on large figurative works. So we were exposed to his wonderful paintings, and met all the we were constantly meeting the models that were sitting for my father for these large canvases. And unfortunately he passed away at an early age, at 51, just at the cusp of his career. And I was around 12 years old, I believe, or younger when he passed away. But I think he left a good imprint of art. So what inspires me in my current work is pretty obvious. I'm always pursuing to represent the shapes, the feeling of naval vessels, ships, sailing, the ocean. It's very important to my existence. When we were kids, we traveled by ship to get to this country. It took about a month, and I think that made a big impression on my life. Also, always being in a port city such as Montevideo, where I was born, or in New York City. Now living out here in East Hampton, I've become an avid sailor, windsurfer, more to the point, but always partaking, always wanting to be out on the water. A very familiar material for me is wood, and I find it very satisfying to sculpt wood. I don't like to go out and purchase wood, just the typical lumber that's available, but I like to scout construction sites or dumpsters at the lumber yards out here. As you know, as it's well known, the construction industry is huge out here, so there's a lot of material to choose from. Different wood composites, different species, and it's always challenging to combine these different species of wood, whether they're engineered or they're natural wood, and um, whether different textures make sculptures where it includes different textures and species of wood. So also other materials where I started to delve into are foam. Well, I find a lot of foam sometimes at dumpsters or being discarded. And this foam I use to sculpt as well, and to adopt the technique of when you construct surfboards where it's foam and then epoxy around it. Foam becomes more, it's easy sculpted and it lasts longer to the elements than woods. So I'm starting to use that medium. And also painting is also something I do. I have to continue having my my eyes trained. So I always have to paint from nature, whether it's a portrait or it's a landscape, plein air. I find it's important to always keep in touch with nature, and hence that's why I live out here, to try to be amongst nature as much as possible. A lot of artists like to separate themselves from nature. I think it's very important to always have it in your consciousness. So here I mentioned working with woods, and here I have a wonderful cedar wood that I found at a dumpster in Watermill. They're really nice people there. They always let me pick, and it's amazing what they throw away. So this is a beautiful, really light cedar wood that will last considerably longer than pine if I want to use this as an exterior sculpture. And we can look at a completed sculpture. But this is the beginning. This is the worst. The part I dislike the most is where I have to use glue, because it's a toxic compound, and I wish I didn't have to use that. But for now, this is the only technique I think works best. So after this, when this is dry and the clamps come off, I start sculpting I start chiseling the piece and forming it into a. But you can already tell that it's a kind of like a vessel. And here's one that's been glued, and it's ready to start shaping. Okay, so here we have a finished sculpture. We don't know I never know if it's actually ever finished, but this is a beautiful cedar wood that I also found, and I had to glue. You see the where it's been glued together, and then this base here, it's also made up of glued 2x4s or 2x6s. Down here it's a railroad tie. So railroad tied, I had to go out to Napeague to covertly borrow some material from Long Island Railroad. This also I found at a construction site, and this too, and it's just all, I have to see the wood first, and once I see a wood catches my, some material catches my attention, and I imagine, gee, I could do something with that. So it goes up in the pile of wood and hopefully it gets used before it rots, because I don't have anywhere to put the material I use.
Okay.
But this is a completed sculpture here. So the tones of the wood are very important. Some I have to paint. Others, they're just perfect. The way the tone of the wood, once it gets treated with either linseed oil or a poly coat. But yeah, these have to be darkened. The railroad tie, it's a beautiful weathered wood, and it's very poisonous because it's full of this what's that chemical? Yeah, creosote. But it's a beautiful. It'll last forever. And here is a black paint. So, and I can show you others that have a different. Where I start to use the material usually is chooses the color. So I have the cement. So here's another example of a different material. The cement in combination with the wood, and it makes a wonderful contrast between the color, the different colors, but also the texture of the cement, the roughness. I think it also represents something that you see a lot in building, a lot of cement. And so I want to use basic materials for the sculpture, keep them simple, basic. And this wood is also a cedar, actually bought, which is rare for me to buy the actual material, but this I had to buy. But it's the way it's been cut, it's a rough cut, so that it gives it a toughness to give a nice complement to the cement also, which is a very rough surface. And up here I included another hull I had to glue together. This is an engineered wood, and I shaped the hull. I shaped the form of the hull, and then I had my my girlfriend's daughter, Phoebe Giannis. She started to paint last year, so I collaborated with her, and she was very excited about doing these drip technique painting on it, and we've done some wonderful hulls together, some wonderful sculpture combinations together. And we're now in our studio, in my studio, and what you see here, what I wanted to show, is the Gulf War series of paintings. I started calling them rotors. The helicopter is such a iconic iconic scene of war. Maybe started with Vietnam, and the helicopter was used extensively in Gulf War as well, and the Iraq War, following Afghanistan. And I started this series in 2003, I believe. But I had to revisit it because of the continuing conflict, the invasion of Iraq, that lasted another, 15 years, 10 years. And so here we are, 10 years later, and it's still going on. So it's something I have to get out of my system. I have to get it out and put it on a canvas in order to process. And the materials are, it started on oil on canvas, and then as I found this new, I realized that you can paint on styrofoam, and this styrofoam I found in some various dumpster dives around East Hampton. So it gave an interesting result because of the beat up texture of the styrofoam. To me, it resembles cement and the type of cement partitions they use in Iraq on the military bases and the safe zones. So, and that's the rotor series, the Iraq War, Afghanistan invasion. Okay, so what I would like to achieve with this work is, by portraying the helicopter, which is the tool of war, which it's the most, I feel it's the most used to show the war through that tool, one of the tools of war, and the ominous shapes that they can that the helicopter takes on a canvas, especially the larger copters, which are the Chinook, which is a really old design, but they're still using it in the Navy and Air Force and to transport troops and supplies. It's widely used, and it's I think it's very interesting shape when you draw it in different perspectives, and especially the two rotor blades that work in synchronization with each other. I think the other aspect of the work is that it always has this yellowish tint to the background, and this is to portray the sand in the desert storm, but also to give it a foggy aspect, which I got that term fog from the fog of war, which actually, I guess it has various meanings, but you don't know exactly what's going on. And I've had actual veterans, Vietnam veterans, come up to me after they've seen these paintings and have affirmed that I've captured that fog of war, that feeling, that sense of helplessness the soldier must feel at some point. So I'd like to get that across in my work, to get that feeling out. So this is a different branch of my work. I've always been criticized that I branch off into many different aspects of art, but I can't get away from nature, and I always try to stay close to nature from depicting from life. And one project that I'm taking on right now is to do portraits of. Well, I started with friends who are artists out here, and also to get in practice to do a portrait, which is it's not easy for me. It's very challenging, because you are taking someone's time, and you have a set amount of time, and you're under pressure to capture the likeness of the person. I tend to to not put too much emphasis on the likeness and more capture the emotion and feeling of who my subject is. But to get practice in doing this, I've done a large series of self-portraits. And but what I have so far is my friends who were very, very cooperative in coming to sit, even with this the pandemic situation. But as you see, they're not extremely detailed depictions, but they try to capture the essentialness of the person, or like the movement, the energy, or the situation. And this helps me keep my eye in good practice, or another words for it is keep my eye trained to know how to paint and to know value, color, and contrast, and dark and light, and the drawing, the composition. So you have to constantly be painting in order to be in to produce good work. I recommend it for any artist is to always do some degree of work from nature, but not to imitate nature, not to overly detail, just capture the essential. In terms of color, I always work with, I try to work with the classical colors, from I guess you would call it old school, or try to stay with the earth colors, the earth tones. And also to have some fun, as the portrait in the center that has that bright yellow, which becomes the face mask. It's nice to play around like that, and the combination of the yellow and the blue. It was fun and exciting to paint that. So we live together, and we're both artists, and we're both very lucky we're both very fortunate that we have come together, and we have a very special relationship when it comes to sharing our art also, because we never judge, we never feel that we have to judge or criticize. It's always our different opinions are always welcome. And personally for me, I always create for Robin, basically. She's my primary audience, and mostly I run all my creations, I run through her, and it's something I always look forward to, and I get the most balanced, interesting criticism and suggestions that really help me tremendously.
I think that it's a really amazing, fortunate thing when you have what we have with our art, because we can be completely honest with one another, and really in the interest of supporting one another to be the best artists that we can be. When he gives me his opinion, it's honest. and I give him mine, and it's completely honest. And it's hard to get that, really. It's really hard to get that. Sometimes people will say things they don't mean, but we really, our goal is to support one another to keep improving and reaching new levels. And so we do have a really supportive relationship with art. I don't think we have a competitive relationship at all, because our work is very different, and I'm also working as an art educator. So I don't have a full-time career as an artist. So I have other interests too. So I really appreciate the perspective that Aurelio has from the point of view of a professional artist. And then sometimes I think I can help you out with silly little tips just from my educational, domain. And so it's some of the tricks I have with the kids, really, they work here too. So on all levels, it's great. And it's just it's a symbiotic relationship, I think, in terms of the art creating it. I do think so. That's one of the reasons why it's such a wonderful thing to have you in my life.